Mage Knight starting tactics. And I say starting tactics simply because Mage Knight is very much in the moment, making tactical decisions, making decisions based on the deck of cards, the hand that you hold, the mana that are available, the monsters and structures on the table, the mission, the unfolding aspect of the map. Out of all the board games that I enjoy playing and that I have playing, this is the only game where turn by turn the tactics are shifting. And often there's a lot of comparison between Mage Knight and Gloomhaven. I love Gloomhaven. I love Gloomy. Certainly a lot of the mechanics in Mage Knight were a direct inspiration for how Gloomhaven operates. A perfect example would be a deck building where you have an action on top, an action on bottom that you get to play, you get to augment with each Mage Knight or each character in Gloomhaven having a different unique set deck, offering ways to move, ways to attack, ways to manipulate the gaming board. But where Gloomhaven departs from Mage Knight is the fact that the known is the mission that you're going in. There's not really a lot of hidden information in there. So you have your heroes, you have your deck of cards, you have your modifiers, and as you level up and grow in experience in Gloomhaven, you can kind of augment and change your cards. But for that moment, the mission is locked. You know what you have to do, and you have to figure out the puzzle. Mage Knight starts out the same way. I've got my hand, I've got my deck of cards. I can grow it with spells and artifacts. I can hire certain units, which if I distill down the narrative, essentially these are ways to manipulate and modify your deck. But the unknown, while there is a mission, the unknown is the units and the discovery. So with that, where do we start? And of course, a lot of this depends, modified a little bit by the actual Mage Knight that you're playing, and if some of the expansions are in play or you're playing core. But this is what I've noticed, and this is where I like to start. So the first thing is whether I'm playing solo or if I'm playing with a group, often we'll play a two-player, or yes, we do it. We do it on there. We don't always do it totally successfully because there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of rules on there. We have done it with 3 players, and I actually enjoy a 3-player game. I would love to experience a 4-player Mage Knight game. I don't know if you could push that to 5 players. I have a track record in the board gaming group, and as a board gamer, pushing out the maximum numbers of players. Part of my gaming philosophy is there is always a seat at my gaming table. If you want to sit down, you want to play, and you're really into the game, you want to give it a try on there, it says 5 players. We've got 7. We'll figure it out. I mean, I've played Talisman with 15 people. I've played Pathfinder the Adventure card game with 7 people. Mage Knight, let's just jack it up and see as far as we can go on there. But with Mage Knight, the first thing that I look at is discovery. I need to know a little bit about the lay of the land in terms of in the terrain. What's that going to cost to move, and what enemies are known and unknown on there. So the Orc Horde, what am I aware of where they are on the table? If there's villages or mines, where are they located on there? Mage towers and keeps and mazes and things like that. While they reveal as you get closer, I at least need to know where they are on the map. So at the beginning, my first strategy, whether that's through playing solo or if with their other Mage Knights on the table, this exploration. I want to have at least 2 to 4 map hexes out. Now, that's not to say if there isn't an opportunity along the way to explore or pick something up, that I'm not going to do it, but exploration and opening up options is key, because especially as we start to switch to nighttime, that's going to change things. So in the day, I want to try and get a lay of the land, see what my options are out there. Now, admittedly, I like artifacts. I like powering up. I like spells. What I've noticed is going into the ruins or taking on mage towers early on, I can't even say we're going to get lucky. You know, a dice-based game, you might have extreme modifiers. You might be able to do it. 2d6, you need to roll a 12. or this idea of like other games where it's like I need to roll a 6 and then another 6 and then a 4, 5, or 6 to make my power work. What are the odds of that happening? Probably not. But there is a possibility to make that happen. Mage Knight not being a dice-based game, while there are many ways to influence, many puzzles, many ways to manipulate, there are some things which I find are just out of reach early on. And the odds are just not in your favor versus taking wounds and clogging up your hand with wound counters on their wound cards. The turns and resources that it takes to get rid of the ruins, the mage towers, the labyrinths, the dungeons, we're gonna push that aside till I want to say level 8. That third tier power up on there, because I'll increase my hand size. I'll increase some of my abilities on there. I'll get some more cards. But getting the lay of the land. Early on, I find that taking on very, very straightforward monsters that don't have any variables in there. So kind of your basic orcs, even some of the ones that might have a defensive rating that's a little bit higher on there. If I can draw a good deck of cards in my hand and do it, that's kind of what I want to target, because I want to start leveling up on there. That's on the combat side. And as much as combat is an important part of Mage Knight, I mean, ultimately, right, that's the win condition in the majority of the missions, to be able to take out the various cities. The real first tactic is early influence and recruitment in the villages, just to start to get some modifiers, just to start to get literally some meat shields, right? Get something else that can take damage, because my block early on, 1 to 2 starting out at 2 for my block, that's not that great. And even to get it up there, then I'm going to have to burn some cards, either directly blocking or tapping them sideways. That's going to generate possibly the block, but it's going to expel my entire hand, or 1 or 2 damage points will make its way through. Now, if I have a hand of 5 cards and 2 to 3 are wound cards, that just puts me so behind the curve, choking me early on. Combat is best to be avoided. So if I can pick up an orc or 2, good, we'll go there. I want to start recruiting. That recruitment, of course, is going to depend on the early hand and what we can draw, and the other players, what they recruit versus what I recruit. But that's kind of the pathway in. Once we start getting towards the possibility of nighttime, I find that's where I want to kind of hang out with villages or shrines or blessed glades, the ability to heal. Because one of the things that movement, when you flip at night to the movement side, I find the resources I'm spending to do that are massive. I'm not really making massive moves or massive pushes across the map, especially not spending cards to move and then flip and discover a new tile. I want to kind of hang tight. I want to be in a spot on the map. And again, this is going to change every time. I want to be at a spot where it's like, okay, I'm next to a village, but I'm at the shrine and I'm at the glade, and just I can pop with minimum movement expenditure, usually open grasslands on there. Forest, forget about it at night, or maybe the desert, that's fine. Just central. Hang out. That's where I want to do my healing. That's where I want to do some of these smaller tasks. And then when we flip to day, that's where the exploration happens and on there. And again, the 3 kind of unknowns are, what are the cards in your hand as you develop that out? The tokens as they populate the map, the shrines, the castles, the ruins, all that type of stuff. Where are they located? And do we know about them? Have they been revealed? So at least I know what I'm getting into. And then, of course, the actual map evolving by connecting these tiles. Those 3 differences means literally I don't have a solid, definitive plan every single turn. Part of it is literally in that moment, what is presented to me, making that decision on there, and then going with it and seeing it how it plays out. So early on, some easy fights, only if I can get some quick leveling abilities on there. I'm going to look to recruit as much as I can. I'm going to look to level up, take on some harder challenges from there. Then I tend to prefer artifacts to try and go in there, but certainly spells are extremely powerful, especially if you have ways of stacking them with mana and being able to play the lower side on there. But I find the Mage Towers mid to almost later push. A lot of really challenging encounters in there. Again, no spoilers with what you're going to discover, but one just doesn't walk up to a Mage Tower and demand those spells, let alone hire some of the units in there. You kind of really have to be ready for it with it. That's about as close as a starting strategy, overall general strategy, not dependent on the mission or the Mage Knights, that I would say for the game. And now, of course, I think we should look at the Mage Knights in the core and the expansions, some of the opportunities, some of the things that they want to favor, some of the things I've seen with what they favor, and kind of push that and layer it over kind of these starting tactical questions.